Good morning and welcome back to All Things Medical Assistant. I am your host, Santino Diaz, and welcome to episode 12 of this first season. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming back and sticking around to listen to what it is that I have to say. And again, this is episode 12 in season 1. I'm not sure how many episodes I'll be producing in this season, but it's going great. So thank you again for listening. First of all, I want to again thank everybody for sticking around and listening. And for all you new listeners, I hope you find this podcast interesting or useful. And if you know of anybody else, please forward along and please go ahead and hit the subscribe and please like and leave me your comments. You can go to my website, allthingsmedicalassistant.com. That's allthingsmedicalassistant.com, all one long word. And you'll find all the podcasts listed there in chronological order. As well, you'll find a space for comment, and I will introduce and I will comment and hopefully start a dialogue with any comments that come along. So again, thanks for listening. So today I want to talk about a topic that's pretty close to home to me, and I think I've mentioned it in previous podcasts. And this topic affects me at work, not only as a medical assistant, but personally as a medical assistant and as somebody in society. And that topic is called depression. You know, these past couple of days, I've been a little more up close and front to depression than usual. You know, and I think those of you that suffer from depression, you probably feel the same way. You know, you go up, you come down, you go up, you come down, you go up, you come down. You have good days and bad days. Sometimes more good days and bad days, sometimes more bad days and good days. Sometimes you got somebody that triggers it. So when you look at the state of our community and the state of our nation when it comes to depression, it is one of the, in my opinion, one of the most underrated and overly treated conditions there is out there. You know, today there are more and more individuals being diagnosed with depression or that are suffering from even bigger symptoms because they were either one, not diagnosed appropriately, or two, over-medicated, and then when they sought help finally, they were tapered down or adjusted. Especially with children, it's a horrible thing with children. You know, you as a parent feel there's something that needs to be addressed with your child. You take your child to the doctor and or to a psychiatrist, and what do? They just, you know, pump them full of meds. You know, in my opinion, I think that's chicken shit because as a primary care physician or as someone trained in the psyche, you know, you should take that utmost responsibility in making sure that you not only diagnose right, but that you pharmacotherapeutically treat appropriately. You know, so, but you know, with such a great mass, and it's growing every day of mental illness out in the community, it's become just a horrible, you know, secondary society out there. You know, and what can you do? You know, there's nothing you can do. Some of you may want to help, some of you may not care. Well, either way, you know, it's something that won't disappear. It's something that will be around for time. Now, how does that affect my job as a medical assistant? Well, again, I think I shared in one previous podcast is that I suffer from major depressive episode, and I've been taking an antidepressant for some time now, and it's helped me out. You know, when I had gone finally to see my primary care and seek help, there were incidences that were leading up to me finally making that decision that I needed to see somebody. I was becoming very aggressive. I was very agitated, easily to be agitated. You know, I didn't want to do anything. You know, I would just want to either stay in bed or drink or just, you know, nothing good. You know, I wasn't eating, and you know, all those of you understand. And I remember the night that I decided to get help. Well, it was an evening in December when I was, you know, with my partner, and she was pregnant with our daughter. and we had made a trip to one of the local malls because I had to pick up her bracelet, which I'd gotten her for Christmas. And I remember that night in December, it was raining. We're driving off, and somebody in this brand new BMW just pulls out, just jets out right in front. And I think we all know this person. Just because they're in a new car, they think that they own the road, or that everybody around them is insignificant, and almost ran into us. And again, I remember it was raining pretty heavy, and I remember the rain, the rain shadowing off or sparkling off in the rain, and got out of the car, and I was very angry and very upset. And I felt my hands tighten, and I just wanted to assault this individual, So that individual, I saw starting to get out of his vehicle, but saw that I was pretty upset, and I think he knew that he was in the wrong. Decided to get into his car and just take off. And then when I finally felt any kind of a sensation come back to me, or any kind of a feeling come back to me, I think it was first in my face, I finally calmed down. I was standing in the rain, and partner was in the car, and it was just, I didn't know what had happened. I mean, I was aware, but I didn't know what had happened. So at that time, I was like, I can't be going on like this. I'd had previous episodes that were not as bad, not as big. I can feel that they're growing incrementally, but not as bad. And when I got back into the car, partner was crying and holding baby, and I just scared the shit out of her. And that was the deciding factor to go and get this help that I need. So I finally made an appointment and saw my primary care and walked in, and I remember him, just right off the bat asking me, how are you doing? And then after that, I just let loose. That same day I was put on medication, started the medication, and it took not too long for it to start working. It was pretty quick, maybe within about 2-3 days. I started to feel all of the, now I don't want to say conversations, but I had a lot of commotion going on in my mind. A lot of commotion going on in my mind. It didn't allow me to think. It didn't allow me to concentrate. It didn't allow me to progress, because at that time I was in school. I was going to 2 different campuses and working full time. And especially with my academic, it was very interrupting for me. Well, this medication that I was given, Wellbutrin or bupropion, it was able to stop that commotion. And it wasn't really a conversation, it was more of a commotion, but it sounded like a TV static, and maybe there was a show going on in the background, pushing it back, pushing it back, pushing it back. And it got to a point where I could just feel that it was like, excuse me, holding this sound down. And since then, I've continued with the medication, and it's helped me incrementally, and it's helped me for the best, and I understood that in order for me to feel better and to continue feeling better, well, I was feeling better because I was taking my medication, and to continue to feel better, I had to continue my medication. It was a given. Now, don't get me wrong, there were days even with my medication, or even with, when I did go to therapy groups, that it was just a bad day. Even with medications, I was still getting depressed. I still didn't want to get up. I think by that time, that my daughter was getting closer to being born. And I'll tell you one thing though, when she was born, our daughter, my life changed. When she was born and came along, and I held her for that first time, everything changed. And I knew that I had to be responsible in my medication and in my therapies that I might take in the future at that time. And that I had to learn to remain to be an open individual and to be honest and truthful, so I can have the most effective and beautiful experience while taking my medication. Taking medication doesn't always have to be bad. It can be a beautiful thing because it allows you to enjoy life. It allows you to have a conversation. It allows you to, to associate, and allows you to hang out in groups with people and your family. And then that's a beautiful thing. That's something that we should all be able to do. So that's how it's helped me. And and during my work, in the course of my work, people come in very frequently, if not daily, um, in depressing states. And right now in COVID, it's a very depressing time. Even though I know here in my county we're already in phase two. Businesses are opening up. I think I saw bars opening up and people eating at restaurants. You know, life is starting to get back to normal a little bit. So it's starting to look a little bit more normal, but it's just weird to be out there and still see people in masks. It's still really bizarre. I feel like I'm watching another country on TV. When you watch, like, let's say China or somewhere where everybody in society wear a mask. I feel like I'm in that picture. I'm in that show. Weird. And I have to accept the fact that that's part of the normalcy now, and always will be. And that's okay, because I have a purpose in life. My purpose in life is to be that most effective, non-negligent medical assistant that I can for the urgent care that I sit in. And when I put all that together, the people that come in and sit in front of me and they tell me their story, those MAs that are listening, have you ever had somebody come in and let's say they're there for, a rib pain, right? And there's no mechanism of injury to it or whatever. And then as they're talking, you pick up on the conversation and they mention something that's of clinical mental health, right? So it triggers you to think, oh, well, maybe I should ask how they're doing. So you ask the question, something like a side conversation, and it turns out, oh, well, yeah, I do need to refill my medication. Oh, yeah, I should see my psychologist, or I should see my doctor about that. So it triggers you to get into that conversation about, their mental health. You start asking the questions, and here comes the PHQ-9s and the GADs, and next thing you know, you've got somebody who's in a depressive state. And that happens all too frequently. So I sit there and I listen to these individuals' story. And it's really interesting because I can take little parts of their story, little parts of their life out, and I can relate to it. So I feel a lot more comfortable when I sit there and I talk to them. I can relate to it, and I'll tell them, about my own personal story and a little bit about my history, to help them connect, And it's and there again, it's a beautiful thing because I'm learning. And by the time they leave, they're feeling a little bit better. They have a plan of action, and they go about, they go along their way. And I really hope too, for their sake, that they, continue to seek help. And then we got the patient base that comes in, and they're just, at wit's end. And I try and associate as much as I can, and as powerfully as I can. So when I speak to them, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, because I do, I think. And hopefully that when they leave that office, that they have found a little bit of peace to at least, move on and find that help. And what really brings me, what makes me hit reality even harder than anything else is our insurance system out there. The pharmaceutical companies who make these medications that are oh so needed, that produce the epinephrine, that produce the inhalers, and they're charging outrageous prices because they consider it supply and demand. All these guys up there, and I understand it's a business, and I don't believe in the fact, I'm not a conspiracy theorist and think that they're controlling minds and stuff, no. But I do know for a fact that they're using the fact that people need these medications to dictate availability. And that's so unfortunate. You have people out there that really need this stuff. You have people there that need to, someone comes in as an asthmatic, the only treatment they might get is whatever we give them in the urgent care, and they'll never have treatment again because they can't afford. They're homeless. They have no job. Very unfortunate. Not enough mental health professionals out there, to take on this rogue nation of mentally health individuals. There's such a gross lack of primary care medicine out there in order to be able to be a frontline defense or a frontline, welcoming, accepting body into an individual situation, and to further refer and to further treat and diagnose them. There's such a lack of it. And I think that's because, with today's New York crowd, the millennials going into medical school, they all want to make, as far as I'm concerned, they all want to make money. Because as far as like residents that come in that I meet, that even take on a primary care role, are more of an older crowd. Now, there are a few that I've met that are younger, don't get me wrong. There are those that do have, a clear picture of what they want to do. But I'd have to say, 90 to 95% of these people go into fields like orthopedics and plastics or surgery, or they go into a more lucrative part, rather than, taking on a more necessary, more intense area like primary care, internal medicine, or just anything of the basic, anything that regards basic physiology of the body. But no, a lot of these, they want to graduate and right away, make money. And a lot of them fail because they have the wrong mindset. And a lot of them end up leaving the medical career, or they end up just walking because it's not what they thought it was, and that's unfortunate. And that again contributes to this lack of primary care in society. And not until we get a growth in that family of primary care physicians and people that truly care and want to be a part of patients' lives and growths, and commit to their generational growth, we're always going to be at the standstill. We're always going to have this issue of mental illness that will not be addressed appropriately. Now, of course, we have the psychologists, psychiatrists, and all that, but there's much less of them than there are primary care physicians, I believe. I don't know. I'll have to fact check that, and if I'm wrong, I'll correct it at the next podcast. So if you have less of a specialist than you do of primary care medicine, there's going to be there's going to be a less access to mental health resources. So I'm waiting for the day when, I don't know, well, I think in New York they had the right idea. They were given free medical school, but they had the students agreed to go to this free medical school to agree to be primary care physicians or work out in the rural area for so many years, and their tuition will be forgiven, and that's great. I have to check up on that, and I wonder how that worked out. And that's a great incentive, and hopefully those that took that incentive will remain and consider taking on a profession of taking care of other people. In the most darkest, deepest, most sincere, most cruel way. To understand somebody's psyche, the depth and who they are, and their thought process and their intentions. That's the scariest part about mental health is are the intentions. If you have great mental health, your intentions are good. Your intentions are thought through. Your intentions are not impulsive. But a lot of those out there with not so good mental health are very spontaneous, very reactive, and that's how these things end up happening. Here at home, with a family, life is very unique because, let me say this, people have asked me, that know that I deal with depression. They ask me, hey, how is it? You take your medication, and how are you the next day? Or, how are you, the next week? And I say, well, I'm still depressed. I just take medication, Some people are more fortunate to end up dealing with it or weaning off medication, and they're okay. But as far as me, I know that I'll, be depressed. At least for now, I'll be depressed forever long that I think that I will be. It's the medication that's helping me. So when people make remarks like, oh my God, isn't that so depressing? I say, I'm already depressed. Yeah, it sucks. And the medication helps. but I know that I have a duty here in the home to my family. I have a duty to my profession as a medical assistant in the medical community, you know. And those of you that are medical assistants that go to work, you know, primary care. I did about 4 years in primary care. It's a tough job. So, you know, kudos to all you MAs that work it. All you medical assistants that work in community centers. Even all those people that are listening that work in community centers or community-based forums or community-based clinics, you know, hats off to you. People that volunteer in community-based facilities, you know, hands off to you. You know, don't give up, don't stop. Because I feel, in a sense, that volunteering, that working in that community better helps us to understand ourselves and to kind of make us, you know, understand that things could be worse. So I'd like to make this a series here, this topic of depression. So we'll call this, you know, series 1, and another series I'll come back next week and speak about the next. So, you know, in closing, I just want to say this: with everything going on out there, with all the protesting, with all of the chaos and mob mentality and everything, please remember who you are. Retain your individuality. Retain your personality. Don't let the ignorance of other people dictate who you are, how you think, how you respond, and how you care for other people. Because that's what's happened here with everything going on. It's dictating how other people are responding. So please, if you can, sit down, think, take out a pad and notepad and a pen and write about what can I do to be a better person, or what can I do to feel better. And if we can look at society and how things are going and look at it for what it is and navigate ourselves through it, we might be able to better navigate through us. Again, your identity, find who you are, retain who you are. You know, don't let the craziness of what's going on dictate who you are. I know, easier said than done, but I think you can do it. If you're watching this and listening, you know, either you agree or disagree, or you're on that same side or not. Okay, so again, my name's Santino for All Things Medical Assistant. Thank you very much for listening. If you're listening to me on anchor.fm, thank you. Go ahead and send me a voice message. If you're listening to me on Apple Podcasts, you can go to allthingsmedicalassistant.com. Again, that's allthingsmedicalassistant.com. And you'll find all my podcasts, and you'll find the podcasts taped. I am recording these rather, and I'm uploading them to YouTube. You can find me on YouTube under That Med Guy. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and please subscribe and like, and continue to watch and continue to listen. And please, again, share and share and share. And thank you for your time. Be good to each other, and please be safe.